asked me to talk about an issue that well, this would be my second time talking about it. It's not an easy subject because I still find it awkward to talk about it with my family. I have that. And it's nasal cancer. It's not as easy to talk about as breast cancer because not many people know about it. It's one of the slowest growing cancer if you have it. And that's the plus point of having nasal cancer, because I still have a little bit more time than maybe some of the more rapidly growing cancer that goes around. So when I was asked to talk about possibilities are endless and how I overcome this, this is what I came about when I was walking around trying to figure out how not to be a hypocrite to talk about it. Don't you hate it when you're trying to approach a cat and you want to play with it, you want someone to cuddle up with, you want to be able to say, hey, I'm here, I've got food, can you come to me, will you give me your furry massage and all of the above, and it does not respond. And I have no idea why, because I've got all the friskies and love and smiles and a lot more food, and if it doesn't eat friskies, then maybe ikan bakar, I don't know. But nothing worked, and I figured out this afternoon, oh my God, that's exactly what life is. You don't always know what goes on and why, and when life doesn't throw back an answer to you, that's pretty much it. When you begin with the lack of answer, not knowing why certain things happen, that is when I think possibilities are endless, because you're not conformed or boxed into a particular solution or how you should be, basically. When people say, how do I talk to you about cancer? The word itself is something that's really hard for people to pronounce sometimes. The word itself can be cancerous because no one really knows how to go up to you and say, I'm sorry it's happening to you, can I help you? Because they think it's intrusive or they're not sure how to. And most of the time they don't know how to react if you tell them your story. And most of the time I end up consoling the person that I tell it to. So how do you talk about possibilities, and why is it endless? Why is it important? You're all here. I remember when Zeke asked, do you all believe in this? Or if any of you did not, none of you raised your hands, I think, because I was way over there. Okay. So if you begin again with the lack of answer, not knowing how life is going to be, you don't sweat the small stuff, right, Hakim? It's a he's a proponent of that philosophy. Don't sweat the small stuff, or as Cal would always say, chillax. I can never understand what that word means, because when you're nervous and you're anxious, the last thing you want to be able to, or the first thing you want to be able to do is to be able to relax, but you can't because you keep thinking about it, and it goes into this loop of vicious cycle, because then you get depressed about not being able to chillax, because that's pretty much what it is, and you're stressing out about figuring out how to. My notes, sorry. So what I'm still learning, I don't have the answers. I don't know why certain things happen. What I am still learning is that I have this vast ignorance about life. I don't know why I might have 8 months more to live. I don't know how I'm going to be able to help my family through it. I don't even know how to work around what needs to be worked around about it. The only thing I know how to is to be able to continue the work that I do, because that becomes my sanctuary. My community work is my sanctuary, where it's a distraction for me because I don't have the answer of what to do. And I disappear in it. For those who know me, I'm a fanatic and zealously passionate about what I do. I don't rest when I should. Because when I do, I get into this powerful darkness that I just completely disappear into. And that's not a healthy way of trying to resolve what you're going through. but I don't know any other way. So by being able to do the work I do, I'm able to help alleviate other people's pain, and that's one way of me forgetting about my own. I don't know if that makes sense. So, and you know when you watch these movies and you talk about this heart-wrenching storyline about someone who just discovered that they have terminal illnesses, and then they get into this clarity and understanding of what life is, and they discover for themselves. I don't get that. I'm still waiting for that to happen for me, and hopefully I will discover my story while trying to figure out other people's story. And because that has not happened to me yet, instead of being a lot more calm and focused and being able to prioritize, I go on the opposite spectrum of being a lot more uptight and intense, and in the last 2 years, a lot more bitchy. And that's still a learning that I'm going through. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, and I'm trying to figure out, because no one actually knows how to work through when you don't know, well, when death is up close to you, basically, I suppose. You think you have a timeline, and you get so involved in that timeline, you just want to speed things up for the stuff that you want to do or accomplish or leave legacy. At the end of the day, I think for me is when you strip everything else down, all that remains are your relationships with other people and your connection. And that is where I need to be able to just chillax. Not an easy thing for me to do, because I'm a workaholic. And because I use other people's, as bad as it sounds, misery as a way for me to get through my own, when night comes, it's not an easy thing to be able to face, because you're faced with only yourself. And if you don't know how to appreciate yourself, it's kind of hard for you to be able to move on. So, a lot of people think that I am not managing my depression well, and I completely agree. What I do want to say is I'm really tired of thinking that I need to mold into the way that people think folks with cancer need to be able to in order to improve or progress in their lives, because everyone's got their own way to go through it. The healing process itself is a painful one, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all I know is that when that overpowers you, it overpowers common sense. And when people say, don't you think it's a lot more logical to do A, B, and C? All I could do is say, screw common sense, because right now, all I want to be able to do is eat ice cream. And that's not an easy thing to do, because there's a lot of pantang, there's a lot of things that I'm not supposed to, but I still do. So by breathing, I found that slowly, in a very slow-mo progress, that I'm letting go of certain fears. My greatest fear is that I'm not someone's favorite hello or hardest goodbye. Does that make sense? So this is what I found. When I'm so immersed in that fear, it just, like I said, it just completely boxes you in, and you lose the perception of what's really real, and you have this movie in your head where you're the leading lady but you're not winning, and that's extremely frustrating, because you cannot expect a gorgeous Hugh Jackman to waltz in and sweep you off your feet. Although, if any one of you do know Hugh Jackman, please introduce him to me. And my fear is also based on the fact that I'm extremely competitive, a perfectionist, and that steals away the joy in my life, as Theodore Roosevelt greatly stated. This is, I think, the greatest principle. If you take away anything from what I'm sharing, it's this: because you are your worst critic, and sometimes it's probably easier if you don't try to be the best at everything, just be the best form of yourself. Happiness are really hard to remember because you don't see any scars, there's no reminders of sweet moments in your life, but the pain of chemo or surgery or anything else that leaves scar, and being a perfectionist, I kept going back to my boyfriend and said, do you think I look ugly in this? Or, you know, do you want to take a look at my scar just to see how it reacts? And hopefully he won't be disgusted by it, and he never wants to. Because he says, you're beautiful. It's like, yeah, you're obligated to say that. But I also forget that scars are just tattoos with better stories that you can leave other people with. When you come to the point of being able to turn off the vacancy sign in your life or of your soul, you'll be able to live a lot more, and that's the stage that I want to be able to get to. Not quite there, a long way off. But I need to remind myself that as much as I try to push to be perfect or perform the best I could or win at things, there will always be someone else who will be better than I. And I need to chillax. So this is what you could probably just do. I do tend to ramble on a lot more and give like a gazillion phone calls to my boyfriend. So this is pretty much, I think he wished I would remember. So if you can find any reason for what works in your life, be okay that it doesn't have to be what you think other people want it to be, as long as you're happy with it and you're not harming anyone else, really. It can be as kinky or as weird as you'd like, or as safe and as content and simple as you wish for it to be. So if you can also find some meaning and you share that with the community, and that's what I'm hoping to do with what's remaining for me, is to be able to create impact. And I remember the friend of mine in the back there said, you know, you don't have time for family, or you might not have kids, but I forget that I do have my babies. I have my communities. So thank you.